Hey City Builders, it's Legio, and we're back with another how-to video for City Skylines, this time focusing on some game-saving mods, that being the loading screen mod and the mod compatibility checker. These are very straightforward mods, but I do see a lot of questions on the workshop and on Reddit about these mods, so I figured I'd put my 2 cents in there and maybe help some people out because I got very familiar with them recently. So let's just get right into it. So to find these mods, you'll just go to the workshop. To find our mod compatibility checker, I'll typically just type in mod checker and it'll quickly find it. Should be the first one as soon as we hit search. And it'll be this one with the clipboard right here in the check marks. The author is Abergene18 and it's going to have a 5-star rating. So it's going to be that one right there. Real simple, real easy. Just make sure you subscribe to it. We're already subscribed, so no need to do it again. Then we'll just type in loading screen. Hit our search, and it's going to be this first one again. Again, 5 stars, and the author for this one is Thale5. As a side note, there is a loading screen mod test. You don't have to bother with this one for right now. This one still works, and it was updated as of May 22nd, 2021. So once you get subscribed to your mods, you'll go into your content manager, go to your mods category, and I will just type in auto. That's the quickest way to find the mod compatibility checker. And then you go into your options and you have 3 sections here. This first one is announcements. This is subject to change every once in a while. I don't pay too much attention to it. The next one you'll find down here is your log file options. So what this mod basically does is it checks to make sure everything is compatible. It doesn't fix it for you exactly, but it will run all these checks that you ask it to do, such as adding notes at the management at the top of the log file. We'll discuss that here in a second. It'll include the details in different languages and translations where applicable. I don't know all the languages it uses, but I do know it uses quite a few. It'll also include the URLs to the Steam Workshop page if it knows the URL. Your most common mods will have a URL there. It'll include URLs to the source files if known. Not as common. I don't bother with this one. Including descriptor headers, it's not recommended, it's there as an option. It includes tags for log viewer apps. These 2 are typically for mod creators. So right here we have our log file options. What I do is I'll click my Open File Explorer. Next, that'll take you into your city's data, and this is going to be a bunch of different things, but what we care about is this auto repair. It should automatically highlight it after you click the link, but if not, just go ahead and find it and then double click it, and it's going to bring up your notepad. Once you get into your notepad, this is where you're going to actually be able to review your report. So if you remember earlier, it said something about announcements and stuff like that. This is where you're going to get that in the report. So you got your parallel row tool update. You saw that probably in the prior screen. And then it's going to say things to know about the mods, such as disabled mods are still loaded, always unsubscribe when you're not using. It's very helpful. Mods that do the same things are generally incompatible, such as if you download 2 25 tile mods, they're just going to conflict with each other because they take different approaches sometimes. Can't think of any other examples, but if you have things that do the same thing, just use one. For modded games, always exit to the desktop before loading another city. That can actually break some of your cities, so I wanted to make sure we highlighted that. After disabling and unsubscribing mods, always check the desktop to flush them for RAM, and then it will start getting into the scans. The scans will start with the built-in mods that the game comes with, such as the unlimited soil and money and hard mode. It's not going to bother scanning these because it knows these are going to work, so it's not going to waste its time. But once you get into mods that you get from the workshop, such as no pillars, this mod's not been reviewed. It doesn't really mean it doesn't work. It doesn't mean it does work. It just hasn't been reviewed yet. I know this mod works, and this mod's been around for a while, and if no one's reviewed it yet, that means it's working. People aren't going to review something that's not broken typically. And then you'll get something like with Painter, where it says it's probably compatible with City Skylines version 1.13. It says probably. Some games, Painter doesn't work. It just kind of depends on what you're running. But then you'll get longer reports, such as with Surface Painter. This mod can sometimes be finicky. But it says it's compatible, but it says some users will experience problems, and just check the workshop for the details. Always go to the workshop of the actual mod. most mod authors are really good about staying updated. Most mods do break whenever the game updates or there's a new DLC, and they'll work on it really quickly. Like right here it says, with the Sunset Harbor DLC, some users reporting array index is out of range and errors. It might be a mod conflict. So it gives you some feedback so you know where to start. Honestly, what I would do at that point is just unsubscribe from Surface Painter, since it has all that problems. So yeah, you can just go item by item looking for everything. One of the quick things that I will do is I'll use Control Find, and it's still safe. And the last time I did this, I'll look up conflict. If it says conflict, it's probably no good. So that's one of the methods I use when going through this. But otherwise, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Take the time to read through this little notepad. And if you find something that just doesn't make sense, I guarantee it's somewhere online. Just Google the issue. Alright, and that's basically all you'll need for the mod compatibility checker. That will basically give you a starting point of how to check and fix your mods. Next we have the loading screen mod, and this is kind of the bread and butter of fixing saves. So under the options for the loading screen mod, you have your custom assets, and this is where all the assets that you enable in your categories get loaded. So load enabled assets. This is everything that's enabled under that category. So if you disable something, it's not going to bother loading it. Huge RAM saver. So take for instance, if you're working on a New York styled city, you don't want to load your Los Angeles style buildings for it. So it'll save you some RAM. Then you have the load used assets. This would come in handy if you've completed a city and you just kind of want to sit there and watch it, or make small tweaks with assets that you know you're going to repetitively use. I've never used this, but I can see the benefit because it's not going to load anything that's not used. So for an example, if you plopped Hospital A and you have not plopped Hospital B, you're not going to be able to use Hospital B until you go back, uncheck this, and then replop it. Then you get into your sharing options, and this is a really useful tool. What this will basically do is if you have 10 assets that share, say, a brick texture, it will load that brick texture once and then just share it across all 10 buildings, saving you a lot of time and a lot of RAM. And it does the same thing for the share materials and the meshes. And then you have the optimized thumbnails. It tells you exactly what it does. It optimizes the asset thumb and tooltip textures. Again, saving you RAM and time. We're going to skip reporting for right now because there's a whole thing to it, but we'll get to it here in just a second. Instead, come down here to prefab skipping. Prefabs are the built-in prefabricated assets from the vanilla base game. You can click this and it will skip every prefab that's in this file right here. So all the prefabs for City Skylines that were built by the creators when they made the game are loaded in here. You click that and it won't load them up. So if you want a completely non-vanilla game, this is the way to go. I leave it unchecked because I actually do like some of the assets they use. If I don't like it, I'll just deal with taking the hidden RAM and just not place them. Down here is where you can do some of your troubleshooting though. This is the load to save and safe mode. So you can remove vehicle and citizen agents. If you're unfamiliar or new to City Skylines, how it works is it creates agents for its vehicles and its citizens. So if Agent A is trying to go from point A to point B, it makes that agent and it sends it on its way. And that takes CPU and it also takes RAM to do that. So if you have to troubleshoot a game of you're getting errors, you can come in here, disable the agents, and it'll make the game run smoother. It'll also give you an FPS boost because the system is just doing less. And it can, make the city easier to manage where you can go ahead and build something, come back later, unenable it, put your agents back in, and it'll go. I've done that once. It was more of a pain in the butt to do it, but that is an option. But what I really want to point out to you guys is this try to recover from simulation errors. This is a lifesaver, and I don't ever hear of anybody ever using it on the workshop, on Reddit, or anywhere. If you get a simulation error, which I'm just being honest, simulation errors are caused by one of three things. They are either caused by a severely broken asset, a broken or disabled network, such as a road or a train track, or a mod. 9 out of 10 times though, it's a mod conflict. That's where the mod compatibility checker comes in. Using that, if it says it's incompatible with something, just unsubscribe from one of the two of them, pick your favorite, keep it, and then it should be fixed. But sometimes you'll still get a simulation error. It's a video game, sometimes things break. You can click this try to recover from simulation errors and it will recover. Now, it says recover. It will start the game. That does not guarantee the next start will work. It's just trying to recover from that error. So it's going to try to load it again. That error is still there. Something's still causing that error. So you got to figure out what it is. And that's where you get into your mod compatibility checker reports and then our reports from our loading screen mod. So let's go ahead and talk about this reporting real quick. There's 3 tabs here in the reporting. You have do not report these custom assets missing or duplicate. I would leave that unchecked because I want to know if something's missing or duplicate because I'm human. I can miss stuff on the workshop because when you subscribe to certain assets, it says these are mandatory assets to come with this asset. I'll sometimes miss it. This will let me know if I'm missing it. And then you want to check your assets for errors. Sometimes an asset just has an error that's either critical or minor. If you can fix the minor error, great. It's been checked and it helped you with that. Sometimes you'll get a critical error and the asset just won't work, and inevitably it could break your game. It's unlikely, but it could. So I would always check for asset errors. Always, always, always. Now, the meat and potatoes of this is the save reports in this directory. This right here will give you a link and file that you can copy and paste and take it to an online source and it will categorize everything for you. So let's go ahead and get into that real quick. So that link is going to take you to a page that looks like this. It's going to have the name of your save or your load. It's going to have the file size for it, and then it's going to have the last date and time that you modified it. So let's just go ahead and click into one. Now there's a lot of information here and you can take your time going through this. But let's just click this top one. So for a rule of thumb, if it's white, it is a working asset, but there's an issue with it. So if I click on this fluffy grass two-way road, open it up, it says the type it's a net. Net means network. Status means available, meaning it will work. You right here have a hyperlink for the workshop link. So if you click that, it'll take you to the link in the workshop. It'll say in city, yes or no. So I've not used this network yet. It will say no by it. And then it will have the date that I subscribed to it and then its file size. Now if you expand it like I did, you'll see fluffy grass short. If it's yellow, there's an issue. So just go ahead and click open the issue. And it'll give you the type it is again. So fluffy grass short is labeled as a tree. Its status is missing, meaning I didn't subscribe to it on the workshop. I made a human error, missed it, so this will let me know to go back and get it. To do it, I can literally just click the workshop link. It'll take me right to this, or it should take me to it as long as it's working. I go ahead and subscribe to it, and then the roadway should work just fine. So, really wanted to show you that. You guys can search up assets as well. You have a search feature up here, so I'm just going to type in a random L. And it will, let's see, let's add an O. I don't know. So AT&T logo, that works. It's a prop, status available, there's the link. There's nothing else to it, so it's working. We have like aloe vera plant, it's missing, and it's used with this asset of Buffalo Wild Wings. So I could just go to the workshop link and get it, and then the Buffalo Wild Wings will have its aloe vera plants, which is apparently very important when you need to eat wings and drink beer. There's also an order by, and you can order it by type, which will go building on down. You can order it by the size, which is the file size. You know, there's a number of different ways you can do it. I typically just go by name and then just search up the assets. I do also want to make one side note. If you are on the workshop or on the Reddit forums and you're asking people for help and they ask you for your loading screen mod file, this is what they're asking for. So you would just go into your options menu, copy and paste this into the forum or the thread, so that people can access it, because this is actually on an internet browser. Like I run Google Chrome, it will load on Google Chrome. It will also load on the Microsofts and all that. So this is what people are asking for when they say the loading screen mod files. One thing to be aware of when you do that is if you're using your personal information in the links, like my name, people will be able to see your real name, so you can change it to user or whatever. It's just something I want people to know, because I know I don't want my real name out there on the internet. So just a little piece of advice for you guys. Alright, so when you actually go to use a loading screen mod, this is kind of what you're going to see. It's a pretty simple screen, and I've included a breakdown that I got from the workshop right here. That's pretty easy to read. But just going through it really quickly. Over here, this is where your assets are loading through. Up at the top, you'll see the number of failed missing duplicates. Ideally, you'd like that to be zeroed out, but it doesn't happen. Down here, you have the color codings. If it's red, the asset failed to load. If it's orange, it means an asset is missing. Typically, that's like a prop on a building or something like that is what you're missing. And then cyan is it's just been duplicated. There's 2 of them in there. Over here, you have your asset loader. That's the number of loaded versus the total number it's trying to load. So depending on how much RAM you have, depends on how big this total number can be. I can get up to about 5,000 to 6,000. I don't suggest doing that. I suggest sticking anywhere from 3 to 4 if you have 32 gigs. I don't know about other gigs on other computers, but I'm typically trying to sit around 3 to 4 now. Your loading speed, that's pretty straightforward. So how many assets it's loading in a second. Your loading timer, again, it's how long it's been loading, just to give you an idea of how long your loads are. I like my loading screen to be done within 3 to 5 minutes. If I'm getting over 5 minutes, I'd probably start taking assets off at this point in time. And then right here is how much RAM you're using. Orange means it's almost out of RAM, and red means it is out of RAM, and the load becomes extremely slow. It doesn't mean it won't load, it just means it will become extremely slow. And then down here, this is your thread loading in your simulation. I don't worry too much about the main thread load. It's never failed on me. But where I do get failures sometimes is the simulation down here. If you get red letters and they say simulation error, it's this problem right here. And this is typically where you can go into your loading screen mod feedback, as I call it, that we showed you earlier, and your mod compatibility checker to make sure everything is working properly there. Okay, and that's pretty much all there is to the mod compatibility checker and the loading screen mod. I hope you guys found this useful, especially for the newer players who are a bit intimidated by those mods. If ever in doubt, leave a comment below and I'll do my best to help you. Speaking of which, if you guys did enjoy this tutorial, please remember to leave a like and or subscribe, because just because you know how to use these mods doesn't mean everybody does, and the more this gets seen, the more people that can get help. With all that said, you guys have a good day and keep building, city builders.